So can you sort of give us another few tips on anything about what you feel would be a good meeting then, other ingredients of good meetings?
Sure. I'd like to talk a little bit about a framework from the book. It's called the 4D meeting framework. And it is about the stages of the meeting and actually the outcomes that you could pursue. So to solve any problem, you have 4 stages. All of them start with a D. That's why it's called 4D meeting framework. You need to define the goal or the problem. You need to develop ideas. You need to decide which one of these ideas you're going to move forward, and you need to do what you decided. And a lot of the chaos in meetings is that each person is in a different stage. And I've observed a lot of meetings of my team, of the clients I'm coaching, and this is what was happening. Like they need to decide, right? I remember there was a meeting, they needed to decide how to launch a webinar, and they had different options. So the leader says, let's decide option A or option B. And then there's someone else says, I suggest option C, like he's generating ideas. Another person says, I don't see why we're discussing this. Like he doesn't even identify the problem. A fourth person is working on implementing one of the solutions, right? So the issue was not incompetence or they were bad people. They were not trying to do the same thing at the same time. So by having this 4D meeting framework and being clear, what is this meeting about?
Right.
I met with my team. I said, this is a develop meeting. By the end, we'll have a list of ideas. That's it. You know what you're doing. So we're not deciding, we're not implementing. This is a list of ideas. Or a coaching session is usually a defined meeting. Let's define what success looks like or what the issues we need to work on, right? So it's not about execution now. It will have a wider meeting. So I think that framework can be transformational because it's simple to remember. You can structure your meetings. You know when it's a good reason to have a meeting. If it's not a 4D outcome, I would say think twice whether the meeting is needed in the first place.
So we better hope that there's quite a few leaders who are listening to this, because this could be really useful if they get it. Yeah, I completely agree. I like the 4D though. Thank you so much. I was writing that down because I have to write podcast notes ahead of being able to promote the piece. And I always love simple principles or simple instructions. And that isn't meant to sound like a patronizing thing for people who are listening. I think what it does is offer us a process. And most of the time we mistake an agenda for a process. So the agenda is clearly a structure of sorts. We know that there's an intro, there's how is everybody, there's then let's start talking about the first thing or the first agenda item. And then obviously they track until they get to the 5th or similar. And so I tend to find another error that they make is that these go on indefinitely instead of being time bound. So they are limited in terms of what it is that we're actually going to try and cover in a set period of time. It tends to be a more constructive way of restricting just randomized chat.